Now, the Good Law Project says it has analysed all of GB News' content broadcast between April 2024 and May 2025, highlighting what it describes as a prevalence of language about sexual abuse around the term Pakistani. Now, the non-profit activist group claims that GB News' reporting is, quote, at odds with government data. The reports that only 7% of group-based child sexual exploitation suspects had their ethnicity recorded as Asian. And they also appear to criticise GB News' coverage of immigration, arguing that it is staggering that the term illegal appears before the words migrant or immigrant 53% of the time. Well, the Good Law Project said we have dangerously skewed the picture of modern Britain while monitoring our content between April 24 and May 25. And joining us to discuss this is our national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, welcome to the show. And I wanted to get you on this today because, of course, the topics they're criticising here heavily centre across your work of exposing Pakistani rape gangs. Whoops, there I go. Over to you.
Well, Martin, the Good Law Project, that non-profit political activist group, has pointed to what it describes in our programming as the prevalence of language about sexual abuse around the term Pakistani. Now, they've claimed that our reporting was at odds, as you say, with that government data, which they say shows only 7% of those suspects had their ethnicity recorded as Asian. What the project may not have realised is that that 7% statistic is not reliable. It's because in June, Baroness Casey said that the failure of officials to collect ethnicity data on grooming gangs had been, in her words, a bloody disaster. Now, Casey told MPs that information on perpetrators is incomplete and unreliable, and that statistics had been half collected. Now, in my view, no one should still be relying on government data when local reports point to a vast overrepresentation of Pakistani offenders, and more recent reviews has also found that similar overrepresentation. When you look at prosecution data, for example, by comparing the overall population, studies have showed that 1 in every 2,200 Muslim men over 16 in England and Wales had been prosecuted for this form of abuse from 1997 to 2017. So, Martin, the truth is that Pakistanis do dominate these national grooming gang statistics. And Casey's deeply disturbing report found that children and girls were blamed for crimes perpetrated against them, and too many parts of the state have been in denial about what was going on. But I think GB News has pushed against that denial, championed the victims affected by this scandal, and has led to political resignations and fresh police investigations. Now, the GLP also said that there were many other world issues related to Pakistan and the Pakistani community, which should have been reflected in our coverage. They also referred to the recent conflict with India. Now, the political activism non-profit argued that it would expect this information and this issue to appear in GB News data if we were reporting the news. Well, that may be their opinion of what the most pressing news is nowadays, and they're entitled to hold that view. But to that, I can simply say that the clue is in our name, Martin. It's GB News. Our primary focus is Britain. So we keep a close eye on international news and regularly engage with it, but only when it really directly relates to Britain. So, for example, we extensively covered that plane crash in India in June because of its close links and the major impact in Britain because it was heading to Gatwick. But the India-Pakistan conflict, it wasn't the top of our news agenda in early May because, of course, we were grappling with a heatwave, surging small boat crossings, the historic US-UK trade deal, the Prime Minister's trip to Norway, and all the links involved there.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, Just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
Could I ask you a question? Have our good friends at the Good Law Project been applying the same rigorous methodology to other news channels? Looking at the proven editorial bias, for example, at the BBC around anti-Semitism and Gaza, or are they simply singling out us here at GB News?
Well, Martin, they told us that they had not looked at other news channels as part of this analysis. But the group also criticised what it described as GB News' disproportionate focus on illegal migrants, which they described as the people who arrive in the UK without the correct documents. The group said it was staggering that the term illegal appears before the words migrant or immigrant 53% of the time. They say that this bears little relation to the reality because there were 43,000 illegal arrivals last year, of which around 36,000 were small boat migrants. And they said that's just 10% of the 431,000 who came through British passport control. Now, Martin, the small boats crisis and illegal immigration, they are major political issues. Indeed, migration, when you look at the polling, is the most salient political issue in the country. And our output has proudly led on this issue, with our Home and Security editor, Mark White, bringing daily exclusive reports and figures, including more today, of course. Now, this channel has broadcast more reporting on that issue than any other media outlet, and I'm sure many others here feel proud to do so. Our reporters always provide the breaking news on the latest crossings, and we've also had Patrick Christie's bravely reporting from northern France, and I've no doubt that we've inspired others to take on the mantle and improve the prominence of this issue in their own news gathering. So, Martin, on both the grooming gangs and the small boats crisis, GB News has been central to the launching of a national inquiry, further government action, and the Good Law Project, in reaction to this, has said that we have a dangerously skewed picture of modern Britain, which it says is its fair opinion, regardless of what our audience believes to be the most pressing issues of the day. But Martin, as you know, it's not just our rapidly growing audience that believes this, it's the country as well. In January, polling by JL Partners found that every group in the country, including minority ethnic voters, were very keen to see a grooming gang inquiry launched, and they also thought that the scandal was caused by a cover-up, and our coverage has reflected the sincerely held views of the British people, and that was reflected when the government ordered that inquiry in June. When it comes to the small boats, recent government action, new operational agreements with France, that represents the importance of this issue. It is a national security crisis that Britons urgently want to see tackled. But Martin, separately, I think we also have some concerns about the Good Law Project's methodology here, because to develop this finding, they've said that they've developed a list of keywords of interest, which included Pakistani, migrant, Albanian, which it said it wished to analyse in the context of GB News' TV total programming. So they said that for each of these words, they assessed the top 20 most frequent 1, 2 and 3 word formulations before and after that keyword of interest. So, Martin, could this be an example of an organisation developing the questions to ensure that it gives them the answers they were looking for? In response this afternoon, the Good Law Project reaffirmed its claims. They told me that when GB News talks about Pakistani people, the majority of the time they say it is talking about grooming gangs. They also added that Baroness Casey said that in her audit earlier this year that there isn't enough data to be talking about ethnicity and grooming gangs, but the project insisted that the data that does exist shows that Asian ethnic groups make up only 7% of suspects involved in grooming gangs in the UK. But Martin, they've said that despite 2/3 of perpetrators still not having their ethnicity data collected. And that was reaffirmed by Baroness Casey in June. Now, the Good Law Project added that it believes that GB News presents a skewed and damaging picture of life in the UK.
And that, my friend, is why you are the Trick Awards presenter of the year. And just to point out, we answer to the GB News viewers. Charlie Peters, beautiful. Always a pleasure.